We're at the end of the year now, and in 30 days, Trump is going to be sworn in, and you are his incoming Deputy Assistant and Director to Counterterrorism. What kind of conversations is that going to entail with the president? Like, what's it going to be like?
Well, the president has one priority above all else, to make sure that Americans are safe. So with the amazing team he's bringing in, with National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, former Green Beret, first Green Beret in Congress, and the rest of the national security team, we'll be working very closely with the rest of the president's appointees, including Kash Patel at the FBI, Tom Homan, the perfect person for the border czar, Governor Noem at DHS, and of course John Radcliffe at the CIA, to make sure that we identify the threats to all Americans immediately and we neutralize them. And if they're in the United States, we get them out of the United States. And if they're abroad, if they're in Syria or elsewhere, we identify them. And likewise with our partners in the region, with our allies, we make sure they do not pose a threat to Americans in America.
Are you guys worried about potential sleeper cells in the United States, given the millions of people that came in under the Biden administration?
Just do the math. I've been doing this for about 30 years, but you don't have to have a background in counterterrorism. Just do the math. The Biden figures are that Kamala, as quote-unquote border czar, let in 8 million illegals to our country in 4 years. Those are the ones that we know of. If you add the gotaways, the people who never interacted with federal agents when they crossed the border, you can at least double that. So that's 16 million people in this country who we don't know who they are. If only 1% of them are malefactors, cartel members, jihadis, members of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, al-Nusra. Those are divisional-sized assets that the Democrats have led into this country. So the threat is very, very real, but President Trump has the best team possible to neutralize that threat as quickly as possible. And with people like Tom Homan, he was very clear. Day one, as soon as the president raises his hand at 12:01, we will be protecting America.
What would you say is the biggest threat that America faces right now with terrorism?
Well, look, terrorism, it's the recrudescence, it's the revitalization of the global jihadi movement with the incredible feckless surrender of Afghanistan by Joe Biden. We have Islamist regimes that are harboring jihadi groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS once more. The Taliban are in control. The same thing has been happening across the region with the collapse of Syria and elsewhere. God bless our Israeli friends who have brought death to the worst perpetrators of October the 7th. But the global jihadi movement sadly is alive and well because of the lack of American leadership. So when it comes to the terrorist threat, it is the rebirth or the revitalization of the global jihadi movement. Beyond counterterrorism, the threat remains of China. China has a plan to be the preeminent hegemonic power by the 100th anniversary of its revolution in 2048. The good thing is President Trump knows that. With Mike Waltz at his side, with people like Peter Navarro coming back into the administration, we will deal with all threats, whether they are non-state actors like ISIS or whether they are state actors like China or Iran.
Switching gears a little bit, so House Speaker Mike Johnson's speakership is on the brink ever since the spending bill collapse. What do you make of that? Is Johnson a threat to the Trump agenda?
So I'd put it thusly. This will be the theme of my speech today, that President Trump broke politics, because Americans have had enough of politics as usual, 1,500-page, continuing resolutions of complete pork. And the establishment Republican Party has to come to terms with and has to admit to themselves that the American people have spoken. This isn't just an electoral college victory. Think of just, again, the math. 4 years ago, President Trump set the record for an incumbent president. No incumbent president had received 74 million votes. Well, 7 weeks ago, he just blasted through that and got 77 million votes. He got the popular vote as well as the electoral college. As a result, everyone who has the letter R behind their name in the Capitol, in Congress, has to understand the will of the people has spoken. The will of the people is President Trump, Maga, and America First. So the idea that you have these bills that are a foot thick, they're full of pork, they have $1 million in there to censor conservatives out of the State Department. I think Mike Johnson is a good man. Can he corral the recidivist, recalcitrant, rump establishment politicians? Well, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. But the clock is ticking.
How many establishment Republicans do you think are hanging on? And like, why don't they get it? Like, after everything that's happened this year, it's been a historic year. The lawfare waged against Trump, an assassination attempt.
Because they didn't think he'd win. The rhinos didn't think he'd win. I mean, think about what the president did. I mean, it's truly remarkable. He went from what? A mugshot to the cover of Time magazine as Man of the Year. From having his home raided by the FBI, getting shot in the head by a Democrat donor, to being received in Paris at Notre Dame like he's already the president. I mean, look at the way the royal family received him. Look at how Jill Biden, went googly eyes over him, as if he was the quarterback and she was the cheerleader. Look at how the world has received him. All the people going to Mar-a-Lago. Justin Trudeau goes to Mar-a-Lago. The Republican establishment needs to wake up like the rest of the world has woken up. Why are they behaving the way they're behaving? Old habits, right?
Yeah, I guess so. They haven't realized the change, the shift in everything. Do you think Jill Biden voted for Trump?
Well, look, all I can say is, people noticed the red dress. People noticed the smile on her face when she was sitting one chair away from the president in Notre Dame. I don't know. I know she's probably very unhappy that they're leaving the White House on January the 20th, but hopefully she understands that her and her family and all Americans will be safer because finally we're going to have a real leader in the White House. I mean, that piece, did you read the Wall Street Journal? There's a 10-page article on how they lied about Joe Biden. His staff realized he wasn't mentally competent. They'd go to meetings instead of him because he couldn't do an hour-long meeting. That's just inexcusable, and it all changes in just 30 days.
Yeah. And the world realized it too. He's walking around in Europe and the Prime Minister of Italy has to guide him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean with Biden? Yeah. Utterly. I mean, walking off at the summit meetings, falling up. How do you fall upstairs 3 times? I still haven't worked out. You can fall downstairs once, but how do you fall upstairs 3 times? And the fact that after that, he wasn't allowed to use the regular staircase to Air Force One. They had to use like the baby staircase into the belly. I mean, this is. We need America. We need America back, and it's coming.
You're going to go on stage soon at America Fest. What is the message that you're going to give to the people here and that you want America to know?
I'm going to talk a little bit about what really happened in Butler and what it means for our culture. I'm going to talk about courage. And I'm going to talk about how everyone needs to take a leaf out of the president's book and try to be a little bit more courageous. Because we may have won, the patriots may have won, but the left is not giving up. The left is driven by hatred. I think, I'm no psychologist, but I think it starts with hatred of self. And because they hate themselves and they deny the existence of God, they project that hatred outward, and they project it on their fellow man, their fellow American. They project it onto America. So they're not giving up. The Mark Eliases of the world are not giving up. The people who orchestrated 2020, they're not giving up. So I think my message is going to be, don't take anything for granted, and now is not the time to relax.
Do you think we'll ever get answers on what happened in Butler?
I think so. I think, I don't know, Dan Bongino, get off of your radio podcast and come and take over the Secret Service, you lazy individual. Sorry, I love Dan, but he needs to step up to the plate. If we had people like Dan at the Secret Service working with Kash Patel to investigate, we will get to the bottom of it.